and welcome to Roleplay Cafe. Dell here. I am going to do a secondary recap of the latest Joth session, which is 28. I think Jason entitled it Things to Do Elsewhere or some such. But anyway, and Jason did a recap earlier, but just for shite and giggles, I'll do one. It might be interesting to see a different perspective. And of course, I'll elaborate a little bit else because I want to do a little bit of a review on Joth itself, too, or a recap on Joth, my experiences within it. Because I've been pretty much there the whole time, aside from a couple of sessions that I missed. But otherwise, anyway, I'll get to it. The session last night, of course, I'm playing Trotter Fingersmith, which the last name should clue you into his to his heritage. But as we play Joth, the world fills out, and I love Todd's art and the way he does his maps, and he's just been filling in. He had the whole concept of Joth and that world of Joth built to a certain degree, but as we explore, he introduces new aspects and new towns and new layers and what have you. There's more options for us to go in any direction we see fit. And it's cool to me at least, is there's a job board, so we can pick and choose, cherry pick what we want to do. In this last session, we got kind of bitten in the rear because one of the shops that the blacksmith can't do his work without the iron ore. He's been hiring the labor to pull in some bog iron, but it's not fitting the bill. And there's a mine that he had been getting his resources from, but it's been shut down for a month. He hadn't been getting anything. So that resource of us, as far as being able to go to the blacksmith in Blackfish Bay, isn't there. And there's for my own character, Trotter, I could not resize the armaments that I taken from the tomb to fit my own size. That's hurt me, and in Jason's character, tried to go there to get some more work done. It couldn't be, so we're running into that little roadblock. We don't have that avenue open for us in the town. So I love the way through the sessions, and just the world itself has a solid feel to it, that you can go back to a place and there's still some kind of a lingering issue that you didn't resolve before, or maybe you set something, on a certain path of direction in another part of the area that could have a butterfly effect later on somewhere else, or, who knows, but it has that solid feel, and it feels like you can trigger one thing and definitely feel the responses to it later on, or others will. But last night, Trotter, he's probably 60 pounds soaking wet, 61 pounds if he lets his, hair feet grow out. But, otherwise, yeah, he's not, he's emboldened with his, exploits in the tomb. And, there's an illusion of grandeur that he has about himself. And he's one of the well-to-do around town. And, he's from Brickett's Bottom. That was the name Jason was trying to recall in his recap. But Brickett's Bottom is a little halfling village northeast of Blackfish Bay, and a little north of the camp where the Longfang encampment is being set up, which we encountered them a couple of sessions ago. The Well Witch was still residing with them. And if you go back even further, we're the ones who tried to take the well witch to where she needed to go to the Blackfish Bay. She was wanting to set up a portal. I love the way Todd has the concept of the portal in Joth. It's a well. And you would get on it basically almost like a stagecoach and ride into this well. And it transports you to another area where you would come up. But that's what she's trying to do. And she's a young acolyte, witch, and that's what the sisterhood has tasked her to do, to set up in a near location somewhere, find a suitable pool to set a portal in, and then she would be the one that's responsible for the trafficking and collecting of the dues for the sisterhood, for the travelers that go in and out wherever they're going to. You know, if that portal's tied to Joth, except the city of Joth, which is amazing in certain respects. You know, is I love the fact that, you know, when I've played in this world so much as different characters, the loss of the longevity of a character really isn't pertinent or overall relevant. You know, what Jason was saying about the aspect of like this life. Sometimes, you know, you're surprised that one character lasts as long as they do or can have a history. And other characters, you know, sadly pass on. You know, maybe heroic death or not so much. You know, maybe they're trapped under a boulder. They're trying to escape. That's just life. You never know what's going to happen. So, you know, the OSE, you know, these cleaned up, streamlined rules of Mulvey, basically, is what we're playing. You know, it's tangibly real that, you know, just as in life yourself, that you need to be prepared when you leave out the door to go on some kind of a mission, because things can happen. Things can happen. And sometimes no matter how you prepare, that you know, you can get the short end of the stick. And, I mean, it happens. It happens. But nevertheless, in this well that we were trying to get up to, well, Trotter ends up passing out. And they had to take him back to Blackfish Bay to see the priest of Asgrim and to see if there could be any help for him or whatnot, and if he could be brought back. Well, that does happen. But Farmer Tam's son runs in, and then this leads us back to the little crypt that was found on the land that we had previously explored up to a certain extent, that Trotter was able to get out of alive. You know, and his three companions, one of them being a dog, had, you know, succumbed to the traps inside of the crypt. Trotter didn't. So Trotter's whole attitude toward this is like, something came out of that crypt and killed Farmer Tam and his family, and disrupted the graves that he had buried his comrades. Something's up. So, and yes, and I remember there was hack marks on the door from about the size of the dwarf. It's funny how Jason's saying, like, when David Lauren recalled something about the shield with the fox. Now, I'm just recalling the fact that in the other session, that whoever broke in and killed his family was the size of you know, we recollected at the time that it was the size of about the size of a dwarf that came in and hacked the door open, you know, and even the footprints, I believe. So this has given me some kind of cause to think that maybe what we did encounter inside of the crypt later on had something to do, even though he got stopped at the opening of the crypt when he tried to step into the sunlight. So even me and Trotter, I'm thinking this isn't really, you know, maybe he's just bound to the crypt itself and he can't leave out beyond those bounds. Um, but maybe he can. Maybe he can. And maybe he was the one that went in there and killed Farmer Tim and his family. This I don't really know. I don't really know. So that's interesting. But that just goes to show you that the world is, it's solid in the things that are in place. No matter the danger level, if we just open up a crypt that led to a lot more dangerous things that we can contend with, or we're capable of contending with, we know to get away. Such is life. Everything isn't balanced to where you're facing something that you're going to beat. It isn't per scale to where you are. Like in so many video games, or old school video games, to where, I'm thinking of Dragon Warriors or Dragon Quest, where you go and you're fighting these beasts that just change colors because they're just a little bit tougher than the last ones you fought. So it's a grind. You just get more equipment, you get more powerful, and you fight the same thing. The same block of stats, just higher as yours is comparable. So it's a grind you go up. But this isn't like that. It's a world where you can flat go against something that you don't need to be going against. So you need to back up and maybe approach that later, or maybe try to find some way of thinking outside of the box, which is what we eventually did. At least in theory, to try to come back and approach this situation, right? If we find it is worth approaching, which basically means that if we think that the gems in there are going to be worth salvaging, and how can we get to them? How can we get around this situation? Of this guardian, this grudge guardian, this watching these catacombs in this tomb. But nevertheless, so Trotter, when he goes in there, is like, look, we hear the howling of the monsters. This is all in that recap, the earlier one from last time. He knocks the skull off, bounces down the floor. Look, it's just the pipes. It's all illusion. It's all just this and that and the other. Oh, mind the step. You don't want to trigger this trap. I've already cleared this out. So he's going along. He's a little bit annoyed the fact that they're not listening to him. Why would we go down here again? It's a dead end. It's a dead end. And then we discovered that no, the wall's been broken through on one side, and there's this curtain. And the curtain has some kind of, we can't really understand it, has some kind of electrical current going through it. So we have to figure a way of getting through there. And that was all, recapped in the last session. But we used that same method in this session to get out. Jason did a real good job of explaining how we got inside, and then we got through there. We went down the tunnel. We ended up facing basically what I can only assume is some kind of golem, wicker golem. We got to the end of the area, and then we see this vista, this mural of the mountain range and the four towers that's atop of them, and the dwarven city of Cinder, take your pick. This has been on fire for I don't know how long. Pre-Cinder, in its original state before it's called the Eternal Flame. So we see all that in the vista. And there's these two double wooden doors over to the side, and that's when this massive dwarven grudge, which we didn't know at the time what this was, but it's a grudge guardian, materializes, and we're in far because we're desecrating the tomb. And that's where this session opened up. So it's a roll for initiative moment. But like I said in the last episode, you hear Trotter's footpaths as he's going back down the area. I said he's 60 pounds soaking wet. He's really not going to do anything but pivot around others in the thing, maybe throw a couple of rocks, even if it has them, But he didn't. He didn't have no slingshot, no nothing. So I made sure to pick one up before we left out of there. But we managed to escape Trotter with a little bit, after whenever Jason's character, and I can't even recall his name, I know it starts with a J right now. He steps up because he had cast that shadow out of the room that we had encountered in the last session. And so he's pulling up his holy symbol and stepping forward bravely enough because he sees this materialization and thinking Spectre. And then the thing is solid enough, obviously, because it swings and decapitates him in his head, goes flying, pops off like a cork. His body drops, rolls forward, and you can hear his holy symbol clatter on the ground. I'm sure his final words were, "Have hope," or "There is no hope," as his eyes lay there, open and blinking, and his mouth is moving that, but his head's, let this, let this, let this body. But anyway, you can tell everybody around is going to be like, "Oh, what just happened here? Let's get out of the way." So this is when Jason rolls up, like he said, literally while we're playing. Just roll up your stats straight down. Pop, 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 pop. He jumps into Arik and grabs his previous character's gear and starts hoofing it back down the hallway. And so he's last in line trying to catch up with us as we're booking it out of there. Lauren and then Trotter suffer a little bit of electrical damage trying to get through the chain curtain as they roll that ball through again and try to repeat that. But then the Grudge Guardian materializes in the room that they come back into. This is not good. This is when Eric, Jason's character, tries to go after him. He's like, "You killed my family." And then like you said, luckily titled out of the Sunder. Because I think it was a straight 20. If it would have broken the sword, it threw the boy back. The 17-year-old boy threw him back, probably hit the wall and then down onto the concrete. Let's get out of here. We get out and then we see him materialize at the exit that we're leaving as we glance over our shoulder. He tries to step out and then he steps back in, into his little recess in the opening. Like I said, to me, you think maybe the sunlight's keeping him away, and Trotter's like, maybe he's just bound to the tomb and he can't leave it. I don't know. But like I said just a moment ago, I'm thinking, well, maybe he was the one, and maybe sunlight, because it was day. So I don't really know. But nevertheless, one thing when we looked at that situation, let's leave out of here. We start discussing about taking the roof off the sucker, excavating it. And I suggest, according to we're trying to kill two birds with one stone here. Jason, new character, wants to go get some mail. He finds out that there's no ore. The blacksmith can't make it. Because that's been on the board for I don't know how many sessions here. He's been down and out of material to make his product. So, we need to take that well witch. We've been tasked successfully to keep her at bay for at least a month. And, Trotter knows that there is a well in Brickett's Bottom. That's the well that's deep enough and placid enough to facilitate her needs. So we take her, we need to get her to there safely so she can set up to cast it at the next full moon, right? So I need to go, my family up there has a little bit of a stake in the place, as it were. They're a little bit of a name to be reckoned with, even though, like I said, they're more disreputable in the way that they came about their money, as far as the town folk of Brickett's Bottom view them. So, even though the members of the Fingersmith family don't, give it any credence as to, or pay no mind to what is said negatively about them. They're still, they've gotten there. They got a little bit of Luca, whether it's filthy or not, and they're going to enjoy it, until you can prove otherwise that they got their money through ill-advised methods. To most, they're not going to, they're going to play the role. So nevertheless, we need to get up there, and Schroeder's got something in mind to make more. That's not necessarily to give his town renown. It's going to come at a price. It's going to come to where that they need, he's got his fingers in that pool, in that pie. He wants to set up something like that. So nevertheless, that's another aspect of the world, this preset and laid out, and how things tie together economically. Money and bean counting and resource management means something, whether or not it's going out on a quest or an expedition or whatever, and you need money to facilitate your trip. Money's hard to come by. I've never thought in any game where, in fact, I've played in games before where, a GM would just slather on the gold. And anytime that happens, I'm just going to immediately stop and retire that character. Because what does he got to risk his neck for? What does he have to risk his neck? Nothing. He's going to stop right then and there. If you give him, if you give him a life, he's not going to risk it. Why risk it? You know what I mean? You got to make it worth going out to get something. And the gold or the silver or whatever coinage you have has to be harder to come by, and you got to work for it to get it in the first place. And I mean, you could, not to say you couldn't just come upon the mother lode, and they could be in different areas, and you could happen upon it, and that's fine. But nevertheless, I love that economically we can approach the game and figure out a way of doing things from that aspect to secure that your character's livelihood, which is the point of why I enjoy playing this style of game, because it gives more credence to the value of the monetary value that you get accrue and set your character up. Let's see, Ignatius, no matter the means he got his money in the previous games, whenever he got to a point, I retired him. He bought the tavern. Now he's running shenanigans, and he ain't got to risk his neck. I mean, unless something comes up to where that little hat on his head is going to, cause him trouble. But nevertheless, it doesn't have to be. He can still go on wearing it and wiping the bar down with it. But as we are approaching, as we leave out, I get my sling, and I think that Lauren's been around Trotter long enough. He sat out on the thing, and they watched the lights, the demon lights, and so he's invested in him as somebody who he could take into his confidence, at least, right? And Lauren's weathered his lengthy stories, so he's found a friend, at least somebody to make an agreeable business deal with, so to speak. In other words, Lauren, you can wear these will fit you. You can wear them. They will protect you, and you can protect me, and we can move forward and perhaps do a little business to facilitate both of us in our futures. So that was basically what he did on the side, and he set Lauren up. Because anything you can get in this world to give you an upper edge or leverage is very much desirable. And I love the fact of the lethality of the old school games, to where it does give you that feeling that death is, for your character, is very probable. Your life could be short-lived, and anything that you get, you would have to covet. You'd have to covet. Like, that is some nice equipment. Now, Trotter, maybe he could use a short sword, but what he's got in mind is to build up some alliances and some bands or whatever like that, and a band of brothers, so to speak, where everybody has each other's back, and he'll work within his own capacity inside that group to to use his abilities and his contacts and his whatnot to leverage for a more successful future for all of them. But so Lauren's outfitted right now. We're off on a good step. He's purchased for quite a pretty penny a couple of healing potions, the Manroot draft, and Wolf's Bane, something to keep the wolves away. Lord knows we've had some trouble with them before. So we set out, and it takes a day's distance, and the Well Witch is with us. She doesn't want to stop by the camp. Now, I love the fact that we don't know. The DM don't know. Let's roll and see if she does go for it, or for what reason she has that she won't. So we have to roll to find that out, And even rolling for wandering monsters or anything that could show up. Granted, I'm a fan of wandering monsters if of course it's territorial for creatures that would be in certain habitats that you're going through, that you're traversing through, that could potentially show up, that you roll on those charts, So nevertheless, we got there. We got about 4 hours out of Brickett's Bottom before we had to settle in at the night's rest with a K. And I believe it was Trotter that's his town anyway, so that's what he had recollected. And he turns around and he spills about the history of that inn, and up on the ridge and the rise is where the knight was buried, one of the early Jothic knights, for taking out a dragon, which according to legend. So this is where it's funny too, because whenever we bedded down, and it happened to be the boys' watch, Arik, that something happened, and that's when behind the ruins and over the ruins, this bony creature about the size of a dog and arrayed like a spider comes scrambling over, but it's also coated in a yellow waxy film. And now these characters aren't really privy to that. But if you watch the whole Joth series, or if you're aware of them or have played in these games, you know that the wax is covering the land in the northern area of that. And you also would know about these, which is another one of the other sessions I missed. But you don't want to mess with those spiders, because you'd never realize what the bones are comprised of. And this is another thing I love about Todd's, his selections of creatures and his imaginations, and I remember I still get cool impressions and memories from what was laid out in description and from the artistic standpoint. I remember going into a forest one time and there was something bleating like a animal, right? And these spores were falling, but it was basically a petrified in the ground tree-like stag, and its antlers were coming up to form the branches, and all the spores, when it would bleed, it would shake, and all the spores would rain down. And so we did not want to get near that. But what kind of curiosity is that? So these creatures that are imagined and put into place in the world do leave more so an impression on me, which I appreciate in the game. I like something that is unusual or odd or strange, or you wonder how that situation ever arose, or what is this? So that unknown aspect of where you're dealing with these things in the world, from the spider to this bleeding stag, that is petrified tree-like. It's just strange. So really, literally, you feel in the world that there is a solidity to it that if you wanted to go explore, Todd ain't just going to be making something. There's a reason and a rhyme and a method to his madness that he's put these things into place, and you can follow, the breadcrumbs to really figure out what is going on there. But he'll let you straight pass it up, and you can go on somewhere else. But the world is full of these little oddities like that, and strange creatures and beasts, and things that really confound you. And so it's very rich in lore and in imagery, for the players to really kind of feel that they're in some place that is surreal and otherworldly. And that's what I really love about it. When we started this, I draw a little bit myself. I really love, like Todd's one of the artists we have in Dark Age Man. And it's because of that weird strangeness, a little bit of a creepy feeling, maybe a Twilight Zone, sprinkle of Twilight Zone aspect over things that lends to it. So when you're in a world like that, it's cool to experience. It's cool to experience. So that's what I told him a long time ago. You really should get it to a point where you publish it. And that's what I feel like we're doing. We're playing all these games to help him kind of broaden things out and fill out the world and connect more of the dots and put things into place and build a little history, organic history as we roll through and play these games. So, if in the coming games, it's funny because when we get there, just to be frank, like Trotter, is it really for Brick's Bottom that he wants that? Yeah. But it's also because his family's one of the bigger families in Brick's Bottom, and he can make them more, their prestige climb and make them more renowned, and also give them more of a straight avenue to Joth, through the portal, as well as some of the trade and some of the diversities. That you think when he don't go to the iron mine, taking the little stuff down there to Blackfish Bay that's fine. Take it down there if you want to. If we can reopen this mine, if we can go down there and get the jewels, open this mine up, if it is the sunlight, that's great. But if he can set up some kind of a trade network to where we taking ore through the portal and setting some deal up with the Well Witch, you see what I'm saying? So economically, within this world, setting up something that would be fortuitous for your characters, if you can make them live long enough and you can set them up and establish them in this world, it's a challenge. And there's nothing to say that your character, it's not a foregone conclusion that your character is going to make it. If he does make it with enough luck, and if he breaks out that 10-foot pole enough and he's not stupid or he's irrational, he's able to realize when he's out of his depth and can backtrack and get the heck out, then you're really dealing with like almost, pseudo real world situations here. It's not just like we got to fight everything we see. No, you got to survive. You got to use your wits. You got to survive. And I do agree with Jason that you should play in character. I feel like you're not playing authentically if you're just playing to survive, no matter what your character's motivations are. If you're totally throwing that out the window and you're not playing in character, then your character really isn't surviving. You are making your character surviving like they're a puppet. They're a marionette for you. Play in character, play their motivation. Let's see their story evolve, and let's see if they make it. All right? Because it's generally worthless, and it's not a story worth telling if it's just you doing something that your character wouldn't be motivated to do rationally or otherwise, So take everything, and what do you think the stats are based on? They give you they inform you as to character and what he may be. If his intelligence is high, then do it. If his intelligence is real low, he's not going to be so keen or so wise or to pick up on things, you know. So, I mean, just from that standpoint, as well as from the information that they gather and from the emotional trauma or the emotional exuberance and joy that they experience, how would they react? So a lot of role play is a joy of expressing and emoting that character as character, in character, and then seeing their journey and seeing what happened to them. And like I said, when you're playing this game, and if you do that with one character, and you say, that was his story. And you're seeing all these areas in Joth. Like, I've been to all these areas. One character may not know anything about it. He's over in the countryside. Another character is in the city of Joth. Weird, for example. He's still alive and kicking somewhere around in Joth, right? The city. There's there's other characters. So Ignatius right there. You know, it's not just the point of surviving. It's the point of seeing what happens to these characters, whether or not they're a blip on the radar, whether or not they lasted for so long. You know, we've got, Graveyard in Discord where it explains the characters and where they met their end, you know, why. And that's, those are stories too. Those are stories too that you recall and remember. And, that's the joy of play. It's not that they all have to make it, nor should they. But anyway, I'll stop gabbing. Y'all have a great evening. Really love the game, playing with the guys. Everything Jason said is all thumbs up with me. Josh, Todd, appreciate you, putting on these games for so many years, right? Glad you did. Glad it's kept on going like it has, and we can all experience, like Jason said, that old school joy and just sink into it. It's like a comfortable, old pair of shoes, you know. You got to think about it. You just sit back and play and enjoy yourself. All right. Y'all take it easy. Bye-bye.